And welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me is the magic girl herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Via Magica. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right, often referred to as gamer bingo, players are trying to complete portal cards by placing crystals on symbols that match the symbols drawn from the bag. So, Will, how do the rules change for two players?
They do not.
Nope, they don't. And so far, there's no bot either.
Poor Nana Man.
Poor Nana Man.
Goodbye, Nana.
Not in this game.
Goodbye, Nana Man.
Now let's take a look at some potential issues for the two-player experience. The main one, like we've talked about in a lot of two-player games, is the row of portal cards can get stagnant. Because it does not have any mechanism for refreshing, it's between the two players to complete their cards. They must take from the row that's face up. So eventually it's going to change, but you may not like what's there.
Right. And there's no option of, well, can I just take from the deck? No. You have to choose from what's available.
Right. And then the only other thing is that if there's any imbalance in how the game is going for between two players, it's a bit more prominent than when you're playing with more players. And that again refers to the luck aspect of the game.
Yeah.
One person could have a really poor game just from the option of the portal cards to the tokens being drawn from the bag. The good news there is it's relatively fast with two players. So
Right. In fact, this game is essentially a retheming of Rise of Augustus with a few minor changes. Most of the changes involve less in the way of attack you type vengeance cards.
yeah, all the negative player interaction cards that were in Rise of Augustus have been removed, and there's other substitute, like you could have one token has now become a wild for you. So they did more of that opening up of the play space and making it not aggressive.
Yeah, so what ultimately happens is with that change, it means the game is moving forward faster than its predecessor. And so if there is any sort of imbalance, well, the game's going to end sooner than if you were, say, playing the other version of this game.
Right. So what the game does well at two players is you have higher tactical choices. It's easier to judge when to take the bonus cards because each time you complete a portal, you have to decide, okay, now I've completed two portals. Do I take the bonus card for completing two portals? But if you take that, you can't take any later, but if you skip it, you'll never be able to go back and take it. So that can be harder to judge at higher player counts, but in a two-player game, that is a lot easier to judge, especially if the other person has already taken one. Then I don't know, it's just simpler.
There is less of a surprise factor involved. Like, for example, we played a game that was 4 players. All of a sudden, boom, I finished like 3 cards all in one go, snatch the big 6-tile thing before anyone else, and I was nowhere near. I was back at 3 portals.
Yes.
But at a 2-player game, you can easily look over and go, yeah, he's not going to be doing anything like that. Right. Or he is, I better take this thing now.
Yes, exactly. Because generally speaking, it is easier to keep track of what one person is doing rather than 3 other people.
Yeah.
So I believe that's it relatively for the two-player experience. Otherwise, it feels pretty much how it does at the other player counts.
Yes.
So for accessibility, we did have some issues with the cards, the icons at the top. For the most part, they're fine. It's a dark background and most of the icons are brighter. But the earth one, the brown symbol on the dark gray background, that's a little, not good contrast. So if you're not playing with good lighting and or your eyesight is not that great, that one could be a little tricky. But the good news is all open information for the game. So if you're having trouble, then someone else can, help you.
Yeah, I think the portal cards themselves, whether they're green, yellow, blue, or purple, matter.
Yeah, and those are small symbols on the lower left and lower right side. I do wish those were a little larger. And even the symbols across the top, I wish they were also larger. But there are times where you're going to have like 6 icons across the top. So I can kind of see why they're that small. The cards are also just filled to the brim with art, which is very pretty. But it does make looking for the important symbology difficult until you get to know where everything is. Then, of course, it's easier. But when you're first playing the game, you're like, wow, that's a lot of stuff going on that card. But then you realize you just need to know the stuff at the top, the stuff at the bottom, and the bottom left and right. Otherwise, the cards are kind of busy when it comes to the artwork.
Yeah.
But what it does well, like I said, is it's open information, and they do have the unique symbols. So these are the tokens that get drawn out of the bag. So they are unique symbols. I haven't pulled them all out, but all of them are unique. So that makes it very easy to tell things apart.
Yep. I think it even has a reference guide.
Yeah,
because rarity is very important when it comes to knowing which symbols are more likely to show up.
There's little tiles. Everyone gets a tile, and it shows each symbol and how many copies are in the bag.
So that's very handy.
And when it comes to symbology, the back of the rules breaks down all of it, because even the abilities at the bottom are symbols. So that can be a little overwhelming to learn at first, but thankfully it's on the back of the rules.
Yep.
So that's good. So let's move on to the conclusion.
So for 2 players, yes, this is an easy thing. I mean, it is gamer bingo, so it's not going to be a very hard game to get into. And it is going to be relatively short because of the changes they made to Via Magica, especially for 2-player games. I really find it better that this game gets on and off the table for a 2-player count, whereas with Rise of Augustus, I'm really close to the end, and all of a sudden Sarah hits me with a negative that might make me lose one of my cards, which means the game just starts lasting longer and overstaying its welcome. This doesn't.
Agreed.
So 2 players, I would recommend this. The only problem is it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah, so that's the downside. The good news is it's on Board Game Arena. As you've heard us discuss, we are big. We play a lot on Board Game Arena. It's a great site. So I forgot to look as to whether this one's free or whether you have to pay, but honestly, it's about $15 a month. I'm sorry, $15 a year to get access to all the library. So if this one's not free, I definitely recommend it. So if you can't find a physical version, because this came out in 2020, it just flew under the radar, but 2020 was that year that just barely existed. So I tracked down one of the last copies I could find. Hopefully the publisher will reprint it at some point. But other than that, play it on Board Game Arena. So for accessibility, though, you'd recommend it?
Yes, because all the information is open. Even if there is any issues seeing the symbology, it's easy enough to ask someone, like, what is that? Plus, everybody has to know what's being pulled in the first place.
Right.
So everyone has the vested interest of knowing what's going on.
Right.
So very easy to play no matter what your disability is.
Agreed.
Well, that will do it for us here at Rolling With Two. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling With Two, that's TWO. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And why would you ever roll with just one when you could be
Rolling with Two?